Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. How is your heart today? Is your heart kind? How is your mind? Is your mind calm and clear? Self-searching. Did they tell you you think too much? That's inaccurate. Let's break it down. As so many of you know, when I want to know the precise word definition, I look up the etymology of it. Its history, when it was first used, in what context it was used, what was the specific situation. And a lot of times you'll find it's in Latin and Greek, but it's morphed the definition over the years. Or I use this 1951 Thorndike Barnhart Desk Dictionary. Since 1951, a lot of definitions have morphed based on government influence, religious influence, and social justice movements. But self-searching isn't in here. I forgot my reading glasses. So, here's what I Googled. And on my phone, searches are AI searches. So you get a lot of good information, precise. And many times, a lot of valuable resources, quite a few of them you can research, investigate, learn from. So here's what I searched. What precisely does self-searching mean? Here's what I found. Self-searching, also known as introspection, is the process of examining one's own thoughts, feelings, and actions. The process of examining one's own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Why would you do that? Examine your thoughts, feelings, and actions in order to gain a better understanding of oneself. Essentially, it's about looking inward to explore your own inner world. This involves reflecting on your own experiences, emotions, beliefs, values, and motivations. Oh, when I read this, right, it reminded me of something I found out in the late 80s. We'll get to that. That's in this book, 12 Steps in 12 Traditions. So people will say to you, you think too much. And that's inaccurate. I've heard people explain something because they did self-searching, and somebody said, analysis paralysis, analysis paralysis. Well, that could happen if you're thinking over and over and over and over again about something that's nonsense, or you weren't trained, learned something about what self-searching means. Analysis paralysis, you think too much. What is analysis? You remember what self-searching is, or I'll read it again. Self-searching, also known as introspection, is the process of examining one's own thoughts, feelings, and actions in order to gain a better understanding of oneself. Essentially, it's about looking inward to explore your own inner world. This involves reflecting on your own experiences, emotions, beliefs, values, and motivations. So in most cases, you're at a meeting and you start explaining something you found because you did self-searching, you examine yourself, and somebody says, analysis paralysis, you think too much. In 1951, here's what the definition of analyze is. Analyze is to separate into parts. Examine the parts or elements critically. Examine carefully and in detail. So if you're analyzing, self-searching, exploring your inner world, this is what you're doing. You're examining all the parts and elements critically. You are examining carefully and in detail. Analysis ain't a bad thing then. So when it popped up self-searching in my mind, I said I have to make a video. But I also mentioned to you it reminded me of something. Now this is an AA book, 12 Steps, 12 Traditions. And non-alcoholics have used information from here because a lot of information in here comes from out there. Example, what I'm about to read to you. The basic principles of AA as they are known today were borrowed mainly from the fields of religion. Now this was written in 1954, well published in 1954. Back then everything was a religion. Catholics, Protestants, Buddhists, Hindus was all a religion. And leave out, that's pagan, they're heathens, please. So the basic principles of AA, 12 steps and such, were borrowed mainly from fields of religion and medicine. Though some ideas upon which success finally depended were the result of noting the behavior of the fellowship itself. Do you think somebody just said, we need to note the behavior of the fellowship itself? We should have meetings, open and closed. They did self-searching. If you know the founders, if you know their spiritual and religious background, they meditated, they self-searched, they examined. So self-searching came up. My dog wants to talk in the video. And I said it clicked in my mind something. And it's in this book on step 10, page 88. This is for anybody, okay? If you've watched my previous videos, I have pointed out a lot of things in this book. And I've said, this is what Buddhism teaches. This is what Taoism teaches. This is what Hindus teach. So forth and so on. So on page 88 of this book, and I read the whole paragraph, but at the end, self-searching, because when I thought of that, it triggered this memory. A continuous look at our assets and liabilities and a real desire to learn and grow by this means. We learn and grow by the means of a continuous look at our assets and liabilities. Self-searching, analyzing. We alcoholics have learned this the hard way. More experienced people, of course, in all times and places, have practiced unsparing self-survey and criticism. Self-searching, analyzing, looking at your inner world, your emotions, your actions, your experiences. Oh, it's in this book. Analyze. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit. Let me read it again. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit. Self-searching, analyzing, making an assessment. All those things I read. Watch the video again. I don't get paid, so I'm not saying watch it so I get paid. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit. Meditation is like self-searching. Until he is able to admit and accept what he finds. And until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong. In closing, just let me read that whole paragraph one more time. It's for anybody, not just alcoholics. A continuous look at our assets and liabilities and a real desire to learn and grow by this means are necessities for us. We alcoholics have learned the hard way. More experienced people, of course, in all times and places have practiced unsparing self-survey and self-criticism. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of his life until self-searching becomes a regular habit, until he is able to admit and accept what he finds while self-searching. And this is about what you find, until he patiently and persistently tries to correct what is wrong.